So according to these YouTube streets, aka the analytics that I look at, y'all really like the Wu-Tang content. So who am I to deny what the people want? I'm gonna give you what you want, and today we're gonna do it by talking about one of the legends of hip-hop. So around social media lately, I've been seeing a lot of conversation about great rappers who haven't given us classic albums. In fact, the question is, who is the greatest rapper to never give us a classic album? And more often than not, the name that I often see come up is Method Man. And I kind of see the argument. Don't get me wrong. Well, Method Man has given us classic songs, classic verses. He's been on classic Wu-Tang projects. But I can't say that there's any solo Method Man project that's classic. In fact, a lot of his catalog has been debated and picked apart for years. So you know what I'm going to do? I love picking stuff apart. That's what we're going to do today. We are going to look at and rank from bottom to top every Method Man solo album to date. He doesn't have a classic, but let's see how good this discography really is. Welcome to another edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions right here on YouTube. And you heard it, we're going to be talking about Tical today. One of the signing members of the Wu-Tang conglomerate, one of the most prolific voices of that group, and one of the most prolific voices of that era. And even today in 2026, I'm glad the wife is not here because ladies love them some MM. Ladies love Method Man because he is not only just a rapper, he's now actor. I wouldn't say he's an activist, but he's often talking about things on these TV shows. Like, he's just everywhere as a media personality. He's almost become like Snoop Dogg, a lesser extent of a Snoop Dogg, where people know that he's a rapper, but he's kind of just known as a personality. And that's what Method Man is becoming. But let's not forget, that man is incredible when he gets in the booth. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But not only are we going to talk about his solo albums, I'm going to give y'all a little treat because Meth, of course, had his run with Wu-Tang, and we won't be talking about those Wu-Tang projects. But I will slide on a few Wu-Tang affiliated group projects, and you'll see what I mean very soon by that. So before we get into this ranking, y'all know what's up. Let's do some housekeeping. Take a moment right now and hit like on this video. Hit like and show love to me and Method Man. And once you're done with that, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I sincerely appreciate everyone who does because the more subscriptions we have, the larger our audience, the more YouTube will share our content with other people, the more friends we got in the chat, in the comment section, as long as those friends know how to behave. We're not here for foolishness. And then once this video is done, make sure you share this video with the Wu friend in your life because I'm sure they're going to have strong thoughts. Rap fans with strong thoughts, you don't say. Well, I'm sure you're going to have strong thoughts on this list. So let's get to it. We're going to look back at every solo Method Man project from bottom to top, plus a few surprises as well. Coming in at number 10, we have Tical Zero, the Prequel. One of his most forgotten albums, and you know it's bad when I forget about it because I actually own this thing, but I almost never revisit it, except for The Turn. I love that song, The Turn. Man, that went platinum in the car. So what's the problem with this album? Well, the problem with this album is the problem with a lot of Method Man albums, especially on the lower half of this list that we're going to talk about. Inconsistency. When Meth wants to spit, he is great. When he has some dope beats behind him, he is incredible. When he's got some lackluster beats or no focus, we get a bunch of junk with a couple good songs mixed in. And that's kind of Tical Zero, the prequel. We got a couple things that we can latch our hat onto, but not much. There's just so much stuff. If you had a skip finger, you would get arthritis skipping around this thing. Not the best album. I can't say it's a terrible album. That's why I give it 3 stars. I think it's kind of baseline. It's fine at best, but way below what we know Meth can deliver. All right, coming in at number 9 is the Meth Lab. This was Meth's first album back after about a decade, and while everybody was excited for the big return of Method Man, what we got was more of a whimper than a triumphant return to form. Sorry, Meth. So once again, it's the same problem with a lot of these albums, just insane inconsistency. This album had a ton of guests, by the way. It was a ton of guest stars on it. And while some of them were cool, and it was clear that Method Man was the star of the show, gotta appreciate that, it was still just a crowded booth. Everybody didn't bring their A game, and this album was so long, so much going on, that it was a lot of distractions. Meth still is going to be Meth, and he delivered, but this album is in dire need of a trim. With a little bit more focus, we could have got a little bit better out of it. As it was, it's just way too much, way too much. Coming in at number 8 is the Meth Lab 2, the Lithium. And you can just take everything I said about the last Meth Lab and put it in here. This is another Meth Lab that kind of blew up in our faces. Well, that might be strong. Again, it's not bad, but it's the same thing. A whole bunch of guests. The sequencing is not there. Way too inconsistent. Everything is just all over the place. It seemed almost like, and I have not heard if this is a story, it's almost like Meth had a bunch of tracks that he just had up in the garage or up in the vault, and he threw them out there and threw a whole bunch of guests on them and like here, and he was just pumping them out. Like there's no cohesion, no focus. Y'all might want to miss this one. Again, it's not the worst thing I heard. Gave it 3 stars, but Meth ain't hitting too well on these later albums. Yikes. All right, coming in at number 7 is 421, The Day After. Now things are starting to pick up a little bit, much needed. And I think this one works because we got some better production on it. We got Mathematics, Eric Sermon, RZA, like that part is good. And as I've said before, Meth, when he wants to go, he goes. This is some of the best Meth songs of the mid 2000s. Like he was really returning to form here. The only thing that hurts it is what I said about the previous albums, a whole lot of filler. And the filler really pulls things back and keeps it from reaching greatness. Cut off 5 or 6 songs and we'd be really talking about something that could be special. But what we have is just a glut of stuff that really need to be pulled back a little bit. More focus, Meth. If we got more focus, we would have stronger projects. But for what this is, you could cherry pick a few songs out of this and say that you could find an enjoyable experience. So we're at least looking up. Coming in at number 6 is Wu-Massacre. So I don't know if y'all remember this, but there was a time in 2010 where we got an album with Method Man, with Raekwon, and Ghostface. And on paper, those are like the 3 charter members of Wu. Man, on paper, that sounds incredible. Like, oh my gosh. And it had the comic book aesthetic. This seemed like it should have been a banger. What happened? I don't know. This one feels rushed. It was weird because we didn't have a lot of songs with everybody on it. It felt kind of put together, pieced together. The pieces were pretty decent, but it doesn't have the cohesion that you would expect. With those 3, you would think we get like a mini Wu album, especially in 2010. All 3 of them still had gas in the tank. It's not like they were bad MCs by any means, but it just did not have what we wanted in its consistency. So another album that was great on paper, by execution, had a little bit to be desired. Coming in at number 5 is Tical 2000 Judgement Day. And you know it's the late 90s when we slapped 2000 on everything. Everything had 2000 at the end of it, even though we were 2 years from 2000 at that point. This album was very anticipated because you got to remember, this is the follow-up to his pretty beloved debut album. We finally get a sophomore album like 4 or 5 years later. This is after Wu-Tang Forever. So again, the Wu are still riding high. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. I'm sorry to say it wasn't great. Why was it so disappointing? I feel like a broken record, y'all. You're going to say it before I say it. It's too long and too inconsistent. There are some really good songs. I love the darker feel, the apocalyptic theme that they went with. I thought it was real cool. But it's just so long. So much stuff that could have been trimmed out of this. Especially in 98 when you had, in my opinion, 98 is one of the greatest years in hip hop. And we just had top tier releases all over the place. This should have easily been among them. But in fact, it's one of the most forgettable of 98. Not because it's a disaster of an album, it isn't. But because it just so underwhelms. Again, I love the theme. I love the darkness. I love like the weird Mad Max deal he had going on. And look, Breakups to Makeups is one of the best Meth songs forever. Shout out to D'Angelo, we miss you, brother. But overall as a package, left us wanting more. I just want stronger Method Man albums. Maybe. Coming in at number 4 is Meth Lab Season 3, The Rehab. And yes, look y'all, look at those 4 stars. Yes, we are finally getting to the good stuff. This was a good Method Man album. In 2022, this is really late in his career. This is just a few years ago. And he delivered one of his better albums. Why? I can tell you why third times was the charm on this one. He got it right. We got focus. We got a runtime that wasn't ridiculous. We got better production. The problem with Method Man is never the bars. Never that. It's the other stuff that goes into making the albums that really pulls him away from reaching that classic level that we know that he has in him as an artist. But it's the other elements of creating albums that really hurt him. But he did it here. He really found his focus. And I don't know if you were paying attention in like a couple years ago and kind of the mid 2020s going into the 2020s, but Meth really found like a renewed energy, and a lot of our hip hop veterans did at this time. Brothers were motivated. I guess we got closer to that hip hop 50 and they were like, we're not gonna let these youngins outshine us. He really had renewed fire. This is a great project, super underrated. Make sure you check it out. I had a lot of fun with it. And finally, we're into the good stuff for Tical. Coming in at number 3 is the Blackout 2. So this album is one that I didn't think we would see. I didn't think we would see another sequel to the Blackout series, but I was happy that we got it. So for those who don't know, the Blackout series is a combination of Method Man and Redman, 2 of hip hop's most underrated duos. Because if one of them drops an album, the other's going to be on the album. That's almost a given. But when it comes to like high profile releases, other than the 2 Blackouts, you don't really see them around that much. They're just usually on sporadic tracks here or there. So we kind of forget about them until we get this. This is the sequel to the first Blackout album, and I was so excited because it's good. It's not quite as good, that's why it's at number 3, but it's still very good in its own right. So fun, so much personality, and these 2 have a chemistry like no other. I know a lot has been said about Redman's more recent run as far as hip hop. I think it's a little better than y'all give credit for, especially Muddy Waters too. I thought that was great. But whenever he's with Method Man, his game is stepped up. This is a fun project, and the only ones that beat it is the one we're about to talk about next. Yep, coming in at number 2 is the original Blackout album. And this was such a fun project because I didn't expect it. We didn't expect it. So around 1995 or so, we had an album called The Show. It was a soundtrack to the documentary. It's a hip hop documentary. I love The Show. I think we need to talk about that more. But I love The Show soundtrack. And from that, we got the song How High, which was Method Man and Redman together. We got a version on as a single that was a little bit revamped, a little bit more radio friendly. That's the one y'all know, not the one I have over there. That one's a little bit kind of harsher edged, for lack of a better term. But that was the first time we heard them together. And after that, 4 years later, we get this album with the two together. And it was like, why did this take so long? Why did we not have these two together before? These two are magic together. They have so much fun. These songs are so fun. Not necessarily goofy to the point of cringe, but definitely goofy to the point of entertainment. And of course, when it's time to get serious and to spit bars, they are not missing a beat. Meth is always at his best with Red and vice versa. That's why the two Blackouts rate so highly on this list. Great, great projects, both of them. And here we go to a surprise of no one. Coming in at number 1 is Method Man's Tical, his best album easily. Not even question. And here's a little bit of trivia for you. My first ever CD I purchased, the first one back here, is Method Man's Tical. If I pull this one out, that's the one that's been here longer than all of them, probably dustier and scratched up than the rest. But that project means a lot to me because if you were a rap fan in 1994, you love Method Man, you love Wu-Tang, and you love Tical. And this album was good. So again, we went into this coming off of that incredible run from Wu-Tang, 5-star classic in its own right. Method Man was the star of the project. He was the one that had like his own solo track on the album. He had the distinct voice. He was doing features. We just knew that he was going to be next up. So when we got this, we thought it was another instant classic. It wasn't quite an instant classic. Don't get me wrong, it's a great album. This is a great album, by far his best album. Great production. Most memorable songs of Meth's career are found right here. But the thing that holds it back just a little bit is what we talked about in the previous albums. There's just sometimes a little lack of consistency across the board. Of course, what we have is more consistent than anything that would come later, but it doesn't have that seamless feel as the Wu-Tang projects before, and even some of the projects from his peers like Raekwon and Ghostface and even GZA. I think they were better at constructing albums. However, I will not throw enough shade here because this album is great on its own. It stands on its own, and it's one of the more memorable singles of its time. If you're talking about the best Wu-Tang solo projects of all time, I would put this on the list. Certainly not the best, but it's definitely one of the best. So while it wasn't the 5-star classic we thought and hoped, I still think it's a good album, and I still think it best represents Method Man's career. All right, y'all, that's every Method Man album to date so far, plus a little surprises, a few of the Blackouts in there too. I even threw in Wu-Massacre for some fun. So let me know what you think. Which Method Man projects would you rank? We all gonna rank Tical number 1. Let's get it real. But would you rank Judgement Day higher? You might. Are you a fan of the Meth Lab series? If so, I hope it's the last one and not those other ones. Anyway, go down in the comments. Let me know what you think, because that's what it's all about. This edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions is a wrap. And while I'll agree that Method Man has not given us a classic album, nope, not Tical, that's not a classic. While he hasn't done that, he is absolutely a legend in his own right. You gotta show Johnny Blaze love for giving us heat all these years. Play on, players.